Welcome to my corner of the internet, and I know some of y'all are gonna hate me for this one. So, Ranking of Kings just finished its fourth season, and people have been calling it a masterpiece of a series since like the third episode. I mean, it's currently sitting at rank 29 after the finale, so people must love it, right? However, I've never been able to fully immerse myself in the story like others have been. There are just certain things that stick out like a sore thumb when I watch, but don't get it twisted, this isn't hate. I still like the show overall, I'm just airing out some grievances I have. Many of those which take place in the second half of the show, but I agree with everyone that the first bit was amazing to watch. Having the story follow a protagonist that is disabled creates a different dynamic not seen much in media. Plus, watching Bojji power through his struggles made him an easy character to root for. Then there were other things like the Apis v Baby choreography that hooked people. The fight was quick and decisive, with very little standing around, and topped off with smooth and fluid movements, allowing Wit Studio to flex their talent a little bit. The first part was also vast with mysteries and twists that deepen the plot. I mean, if you weren't wide-eyed when that demon just popped out of boss, or when Damas pushed Bojji into a literal pit of hell, then I don't know what to tell you, because those were some of my favorite parts of the show. And that's without even mentioning the beautiful visuals and songs of the opening. But honestly, I think this is why the later parts of the show kind of lost my interest. It turned into more of an action-focused show instead of character-driven, and when the characters were the focus again, it just didn't hit like it used to. So I'll start with something that most people seem to agree on: Bojji's power-up. The problem for me starts where we get to see none of the training that's done. Watching characters power through their struggles makes for a satisfying moment later on when they finally show off, but we get none of that in the like 2 episodes that focus on his training, and I'm just expected to chill for him gaining a power that was seemingly handed to him. It creates these forced, undeserved emotional moments where everyone sees how strong he actually is since they still think he's weak. I mean, before this, Bojji couldn't even lift a bucket of water, and now he's the strongest person in the world because he can poke things on a molecular level and constrict people's blood vessels. Yeah. He literally just stands in one place and destroys Gigan's hammer and takes him down without moving from that spot. For narrative reasons, I like his fight against Boss, picturing his father as his original form, but I feel like the main reason it was shown like that is because watching him fight Boss and dice his body would have been boring. It's a bit too much, especially because he already had an impressive ability in his dodging capabilities, which have taken a backseat to his swordsmanship. Now, I'm not saying he should have remained powerless for the rest of the show, I just don't like how it was done. Maybe he could have learned to fight with Kage in some way. It's not like he's doing much now. He's just become some less cool version of Speedwagon, constantly narrating what's going on. But Speedwagon has healing abs, so it's okay for him. But when you combine that with the ability to pretty much one-shot anyone he faces, I'm not as engaged as I should be whenever Bojji steps up to fight. All the tension is gone whenever this happens because they've created a strong character who can never be touched. He's so overpowered that it takes an immortal monster like Oaken to even cause trouble for Bojji. Everyone else just might as well be cannon fodder. Another thing that a lot of people seem to agree on is the pace of the second half. Honestly though, this didn't bother me too much, but there were a couple times where it was noticeable. All of the mystery and twists that were planned in the earlier episodes were resolved quickly, leading to a pretty anticlimactic conclusion, which I'll go into a bit later. Somehow, it feels like the overall plot is rushed, but the individual plot points that don't really matter drag on for too long. It took about 4 episodes to deal with Oaken, and yes, I get he's immortal, so defeating him shouldn't come easy, but watching every new challenger fight him week to week was kinda boring. Then you have episodes like the Order of the Underworld, where almost nothing of importance happens the entire time, except Bojji's reaction to seeing Damas again, which is then made into a joke as he tries to kill himself. The Knights then promptly leave the following episode, making the 2 episodes they were here meaningless to current events. They do give flashbacks to the 3 brothers, but all of that could have been told by Despa at a different time. The pacing of the fights have also suffered in the second half, With the exception of the Big Four versus Oaken, many of the fights in the second half are underwhelming as they're plagued with static shots and standing around waiting for something to happen. I mean, I love Dorsey and Healing, but if those lines acted like they did the first time, both of them should be dead. This show has always been a shonen, but it feels like at some point the worst parts of the genre caught up to them, giving us most of the questionable stuff that we see in the second half. Now, one of the aspects of this show that has irritated me the most is the lack of consequences throughout the anime, and this takes place in a few different forms, one of those being how there is no fear of death during fights. I'm not asking for some Attack on Titan level body count, but the constant healing removes any tension. It seems like they're aware of this because they make it a point that healing isn't around or how she's out of power, so they have to be more careful in situations. But there's always some convenient reason that keeps people from dying. The captain of the underworld got stabbed? Well, he has an ability to stop his bleeding. Worried when Oaken stabs somebody? Well, he specifically avoids vital areas. Worried when Kage is almost killed? Well, Muranjo just heals him because she thinks she just might be the baddie after all. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've seen people saying that the creator didn't want to kill characters if they could do more with them in the future and flesh them out, and I agree with that, but then I would say don't put those characters in those situations to begin with. But this isn't the only time where lack of consequences has gotten on my nerves. Every character obviously has their own motivations that drive their actions. It creates scenarios where you're unsure of what side any character is on at any given moment. But the problem for me is that no matter what, everyone is quickly forgiven for their actions. Apis joined someone who had the intention of overthrowing the kingdom and killing the royal family. He does this because he's basically a huge simp for Muranjo. No matter what his reasons are, the man is a traitor. But instead of facing consequences for his actions, Healing saves his life anyway. Literally one of the first things he says after they save him is that he might betray them again. But that doesn't matter and they just let him go and try and save Muranjo anyway. And speaking of Muranjo, she's the most guilty one of all who just seemingly gets left off the hook in every way. Apparently, it doesn't matter that she trapped Daida in a void of darkness, broke prisoners out of an underworld jail so they could wreak havoc on the kingdom, is the reason Bojji is the way he is, and tried to kill Healing and succeeded in killing Queen Sheena. But none of that matters because she had a terrible childhood. The story tries to portray her as this broken character, but her reasons for doing this just come off as shadow and a poor justification of her actions. Everyone is instantly fine with what she's done, and she even got a marriage proposal from Daida, making her queen of the kingdom she tried to destroy. Now, I will say that Muranjo didn't outright accept, but that seems to be the way they're going. She has paid no price at all. Even the consequence of breaking her promise to the demon, which has been the driving force for this entire season, was reversed in a couple of minutes, depriving Oaken of his chance to become human again, mind you, which forces Dessa to accept the title of number 1, possibly making him go crazy. Daida and Bojji are causing problems for everyone by letting her go. For some reason, even Sheena forgives her on the principle of hate the sin, not the sinner. Like, girl, she took you away from your son and would have killed him too. I can't imagine letting stuff like that slide. If they wanted a happy ending for Muranjo, they should have just let her soul move on with both to the afterlife. I know it seems like I'm being hard on this show, but I do genuinely enjoy watching it. You can tell there are captivating elements in the world that was created. Unfortunately, it seems like most of that interesting stuff has either already happened in flashbacks or has yet to happen with the actual Ranking of Kings plotline. This season felt like one entire prologue for things to come. I think the manga isn't too far ahead of where we are now, so it'll be a while before another season is made. I just hope whatever comes next is able to capture the mystery, storytelling, and intrigue that this season lost. So that's pretty much my thoughts for a summer ranking. I know it's a pretty unpopular one, so just don't flame me too much in the comments. Let me know what you liked about it too, because I know people love this series and I hope that can change my perspective on it as well. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.